When you're dreaming, 99% of the time, you don't realize you are inside your dream. That means you're following your subconsciousness. Whether your subconsciousness creates for you, you follow it and you don't question it. I'm someone who barely remembers my dreams, but every once in a while, I realize I'm inside one. And the moment you realize you're sleeping, the subconsciousness disconnects you from the dream. You get kicked out of it automatically. Now, if you're someone who strongly believes you can fully control your dreams and the reality you live in, maybe this video is not for you. Or maybe it is. I'll leave it that as a question. But here's what I want you to sit with. The same things happen in your waking life. When you go through your day-to-day routines and chores, you might not even realize you're following patterns that were implemented in you. And as long as you keep following those patterns, as long as you don't realize them and disconnect your actions from the program that was set into you, you stay on the frequency that was assigned to you. This starts before you were even born. It probably begins around the time your mom was 6 to 8 months pregnant with you. That's the environment your soul is already choosing into, the kind of life that you will be born into. Based on that, you're born into a specific family, a specific reality, specific situations. From there, until you become an adult, you don't really get to set your own frequency. You inherit it. You inherit it through your parents, through your ancestors, through their beliefs, and you inherited from school, from classmates who were raised in completely different families and situations. All of that becomes your default settings. Then suddenly you're 21 or older and you're wondering why there's so much misalignment in your life. Why every job you take pays just enough to survive and never more than that. Why every time you date someone, there are things that excite you, and then, oh, things that immediately disappoint you. Why it's never quite the relationship you actually want. Why every time you try to stand your ground and protect your boundaries, something inside makes you fold and play by other people's term instead of your own. Why is it so hard to say no or to even know what's actually in your best interests? For a lot of you, this challenge just looks different on the surface. For some of you, you have dreams, but they never seem to happen. For some of you, you're waiting for this big awakening moment, the big success, and it never comes. For some of you, you want to trust someone and then they prove they're not the person you thought they were. What's actually happening is you've been stuck in a loop, living in a reality that you don't enjoy. Not something you love, not something you're obsessed with, not something you're a fan of. It's just not it. So how do you get to the point where your true desires actually translate into the reality? How does it happen that when you want something, you find a way to bring it to life instead of staying stuck? This is how you create a frequency so strong and manifests your biggest dreams for you. Let me tell you how strong and magnetic my own frequency is. I worked with clients for years and I've spent that time developing my unique ways to raise my frequency. Here's some proofs. I'm so magnetic that people literally invite me to hang out on their yachts. Every time I go to a concert, I somehow end up being next to my favorite celebrities, sometimes close enough to actually be literally right next to them. And I never have to spend insane amount of money to make this happen. When I do something I genuinely enjoy, I immediately stand out in that space. That includes my content. My accounts are less than a year old and I'm already one of the most watched creators in the spiritual community on TikTok, which is massive, and that's how you probably found me. I've always dreamed of a life where I can constantly travel, where I'm not attached to one place, and that's the life that I've been living for the past 2 years. Traveling 3 to 4 months a year. And when it's cold, I fly to Miami. When it's hot, I fly to Chicago and enjoy the windy city. I have friends all over the countries, and all of this because I created my frequency so high that the universe brings me opportunities for everything that I do. I constantly go to networking events with people I genuinely aspire to be like. I get connected with some of the most talented people in the country, and I feel so magnetic. So how do you get to that place? First, I want you to know this isn't about writing affirmations. It's not about saying things in a mirror or commenting, I'm successful, I'm abundant under a post. That's not how you create your frequency. The only way you actually shift your frequency is by changing the code in the real world, in the reality we live in. And if you're watching this video, you probably already know that you are a spiritual being living in the material world. And the material world has its own rules. It's so materialistic that to actually speak to the universe, the part of you that's only connected through your spiritual self, you need to find a way to rewrite that code and send a real signals out to the universe. So how do you rewrite that code you were born into? How do you rewrite the limiting beliefs you live with right now? As I said, you don't need to meditate day by day. You do not need to repeat affirmations, but you need to do something in real world that sends a signal to the universe that you are awakening from the matrix that you've been living in choosing to actually create your own reality, one where the things you are aligned with are yours and present. I want you to think of your frequency like a glass of water. As a human, you need different amount of water at the different times in your life. Same way, as you move through your life, you have different capacities for frequency. If you're just now realizing that there is more to life than constant work, bills, exhaustion, and disappointments, your capacity might barely stretch past that zone. If you're successfully manifested something before, even once in your life, you probably already have a higher capacity for higher frequencies. So also better and happier events in your life. So the first thing I want you to know, you have your own capacity. Right now, it might be limited. It might not be enough for your desires you actually want, but there are ways to increase it. Manifesting flowers from your boyfriend doesn't require the same capacity as manifesting free upgrade to the first class or being accepted into the dream university with the full financing. Those are different levels of capacity, and that's okay. Second, a glass of water as a glass of capacity, you can't only attract or exist within a frequency that matches your current capacity, high or low. You can also be affected by things around you to raise or lower your frequency. For most of my life, I was surrounded by people, systems, and situations that lowered my frequency because that's what people call the status quo. The status quo rejects progress just to stay exactly where it is. You can probably name people in your life who are incredibly talented, incredibly special, but who never do anything to become the best versions of themselves. That's the status quo, the system, the matrix that keeping them exactly where they are. So one of the ways to build a frequency that brings your dreams to you is to stop allowing people to lower your frequency. And here's the thing, most people don't lower frequency because they want to hurt you. They do it because they have their own beliefs about the world, just like you have yours. Let's talk about money as an example. To reach a certain level of income, you need a strategy that's specific to you. There are wealthy, successful people who live very humble lifestyles and who would rather stay home, cook for themselves, and save every penny. There are other people who spend freely, who buy new bags, clothing, take the most adventurous trips, and somehow their money only multiplies because of it. If you ask either of these people for advice on how to multiply income, they would give you a completely different answers. So you go, you listen to coaches, you follow the advices, and it doesn't work for you. It doesn't increase your frequency, none of it. So you start thinking something is wrong with you or wrong with the advice, or maybe you don't even realize that anything is wrong at all, and you just keep trying, keep using the tools that were never meant to help you in the first place. This is another reason why you're not manifesting the reality that you want. You have a very specific picture in your mind of how you envision your life, but you probably heard more no's, more concerns from people closest to you than support. People have probably told you what you want isn't real, isn't accessible, or isn't realistic. So that's the second thing to consider. You can only manifest reality you want when you become the master of your own frequency. When you can almost look at the chart at the table and measure exactly where your frequency dropped and where it rose. But nobody can hand it to you. You're the only person who can think, feel it, notice it. There is no coach, no tool, nothing but you that can actually do that work. Even the most expensive coach only can give you advice that works for them. It will never work the same way for you because it isn't happening in your subconsciousness and isn't your desire. The third way to manifest your reality is taking chances from the universe. You've probably watched me making predictions, whether that's astrological or tarot. Those predictions exist on a frequency and on a spectrum. So when I talk about a transit, for example, Mars entering Gemini, what does that actually mean for you? I'll always say every transit has a positive and negative side. People with a high frequency experience that transits on the positive side. It brings them success. This specific transit would bring them energy, connections, short-term success, and improvements. If we were to measure frequency on a scale from 0 to 100, say that they were at 70, after going through this transit, they would rise to 75 because they understood their frequency, because they understood how it affects them, they understood how they needed to show up in the world to attract those things. Now, the same example, but for somebody with a low frequency, the person is listening to advice that was never meant for them. They're rejecting obvious sign that something is wrong in their life. They're all about the status quo, rejecting progress just to stay comfortable. When the same transit comes through them, it brings the negative side instead. Conflicts, verbal arguments, distractions, feeling scattered. That's what a transit like Mars in Gemini can bring depending on your frequency, how you operate, and what you embody. If this person was at 50, after this transit, they would drop to 47. There are dozens of these chances happening every single month. People on a high frequency take them and rise little by little, increasing their capacity for better events over time. Imagine a year going by with 10 different events like this every month. Somebody on a high frequency might step up 3 levels up over the year, tripling their capacity. Look at them a year ago where they were just starting something new or starting a relationship. A year later, they're already engaged, or their business is making money, or they're living on a life that they used to only talk about. Meanwhile, somebody's taking the same chances on a low frequency has their capacity shrink instead. If they were in a relationship they didn't even like, now they're struggling to find anyone. If they were stuck in a job that we're unhappy with, now they have even more financial obligations and even less chances of leaving because of the status quo holds them there. As the year go by, the habit of living in a low frequency state creates a reality that reflects exactly that. It shows up in how they feel, is not enjoying what they see in the mirror, in the people around them, friends who are toxic or unmotivated, always confirming that the world is a poor place with no real opportunities. Compare that to people who live the same transit on a high frequency. They already exist on a different level of reality. They're not surrounded by people stuck in a limiting beliefs. They've paid off their debts and now they invest money into themselves, into the career, into the knowledge and their joy. They're doing what they actually want and they experience the world as an abundant place. So let me tie this all together. To create a reality that brings you desires without effort, here's what you need to do. Number one, understand where you are actually in control and where you're following blindly, still inside the dream. What are the things that you do on autopilot without even realizing they are hurting you? Number two, look at the people around you, look at yourself and find the proof. When you're in the right space, in the right mindset, at the right frequency, those events happen for you. And there is no limit to how often they can happen or how much it can excite you. For me, those moments that I described before happened one after another, and I still believe that there was even more on the way. Number three, understand that different people have different capacities and start thinking about your own. One measurement is your environment. Are the people around you supportive? Or do you find yourself venting to a therapist about how unsupportive they are, how they're not really doing anything with their life, and how they're not the best role models for growth? Another measurement is money. Not just how much you have, but how you make it. Does earning it exhaust you? Does it frustrate you? Do you have to push yourself through things you hate to get it? Or does it come from doing things effortlessly, easily, and joyful? A third measurement is your dreams. What was the last time something made you say, wow? How quickly did you move from one dream to another and to the next one? Are you dreaming about the same thing for years and it never arrives? Or do the things happen effortlessly, building a new reality and keep growing from there? Open your wish list, open your goals, open your resolutions from this year and see how many of these things have already come to life. How big are they and how close are you to achieving them? Number four, go back through your journals or the next time you watch one of my predictions or transit breaks down, ask yourself what the universe has actually been confirming for you. Has it been confirming your fears, your beliefs that people can be relied on, a scarcity mindset, or has it been confirming the opposite? Real positive experiences, things increasing your capacity, moments that make you believe without a single question that your life is special and that you can create your own reality and your own success. To bridge the gap between low frequency and high frequency, if you're wondering what the actual tools are, here's the truth. It's not affirmation, it's not meditations, it's not manifesting boards, it's not journaling. It's the code you rewrite through real actions in the physical world, because that's the reality we actually live in. We don't live in a spiritual world. We can feel it, we can talk to it, we can sense it, but we live in a physical one. So the work has to happen there too. If you're still wondering exactly what those actions are, click the next video that I have for you. That's the frequency elevator. And once you step inside, it takes you all the way up, floor by floor, to the highest levels of frequency. Just follow through and you will see the next video.